Wait for Justin. Hey, there he is. Hey, Justin, let me see. I don't think I can hear you. Are you on mute? Mhm. Don't think so. Let me make sure my sound's working. Oh, is my sound not working? Oh, no, there it is. Okay.
Hey, Amir, just so you know, we can't hear Justin either. It looks like he's having some signal issues.
Oh, okay. It's all right.
Yep.
Thank you.
You bet.
Yellow. Hello.
Tell you what, I'll hang out with you for a few minutes while Justin gets his tech settled. Give me a second here.
Thank you.
You bet. How have you been, Amir?
I've been good. Well, it's like kind of life by compartments, isn't it, these days? I feel like I try to focus on the things that one can feel really good about: family, friends, being healthy and alive, like having things one enjoys. But, alongside that, it's tough, man. Like the world is really complex now. There's like so many gutting things going on. Blue Point today, there's so many things. So you just try to take it all together, right? How about you?
I'm in very much the same state. School's going all right. Work is hit or miss. And, the world is just a very chaotic and brutal place right now. And it's funny because I look back, right? And I look thinking about things, and I'm just like, oh, the check that we cashed out on in the 90s, we have to pay now. So, damn it. I wouldn't think this would happen in my generation. So,
Yeah, yeah, I know for some of the nice comments. Thank you so much, Mila. Karen, it hurt my feelings too. I want to say, this was the whole community. I love you all
yeah.
very much, and this was a really, really great idea. I thank Justin and the other lead mods like Zell for encouraging us to do this, just so we have this touch point to all be together. But let's do this maybe a little bit until Justin comes back. Let's um let's do it's been a very, very heavy week. Let's do something a little bit lighter. Why don't you tell me, Zell? Why don't you tell me something you did this week that was really fun?
So I took this whole week off because I'm in between, I run classes for every 3 month bits. I played Mugenics almost nonstop, and I was expecting to play it for like 8 hours. I'm like, okay, I've seen it. And it's just been delightful seeing these silly little cats do silly cat things inside a little world. That's been delightful. I'm also planning for my birthday party on this weekend, which is going to be a Simpson-themed birthday party where I'm showing up as Flanders. We'll see how that goes. And, just little moments like that have been scattered throughout this week, and that's been really nice.
That's cool. That's very cool.
All
Yeah, no.
right. Can you guys hear me now?
We
Hey,
do.
Justin.
All
Yeah,
right.
great.
Yay. All
Yeah.
right.
Let's
Sorry,
get this show
everyone. I
rocking,
am
Justin.
I am in a hotel in Miami, so I'm gonna have my video off. But Alex, I appreciate, you can definitely stay on stage. But I just wanted to say hello, everyone. I will be recording this. I know a lot of people have asked, will this be recorded? So we are recording it right now. This is our first session. So welcome, everyone. Really appreciate everyone being here. The purpose of this event is I don't know if Amir already said this, so if I'm re-saying this over again, I apologize. But if not, who cares? You can hear me again. The purpose of this event is for you, the community. We heard you loud and clear from day one. We wanted more engagement, and not to punch down or anything, because we all know Amir's resources are great, but there has been trolls and of course negativity out there saying it's just an Excel sheet, and we all know that's not true, but that's what the trolls were saying. So this, in a way, is Amir saying, you know what? Middle finger you. I am more than just an Excel sheet. Amir's here to actually engage with his community. That is what he's for. He started the LinkedIn Live events when LinkedIn first did its rollout. What was it, 3 years ago, Amir?
Yeah,
Like
can't believe how the
3
time
years
has
ago?
gone, right? Yeah,
My goodness. And so that's how actually Amir and I met. Actually, it was a funny story. So I remember I wanted to do the LinkedIn audio events. I just wanted to test it out. Amir wanted to do the LinkedIn audio events. We found out that we both did one just on the fly. He had a great audience, I had a great audience, and we connected and we said, hey, you know what? Why don't we do an event together? And so, not to say that we started those events, but definitely I would say part of the pioneers that started out in the beginning of LinkedIn audio events, and that really just took off, and everyone really appreciated that. Content creators, LinkedIn, whoever you want to call them, recruiters, anybody that was helping out the community who were job seekers trying to break into games, and that's what we're ultimately trying to do here. I mean, did that kind of sum it up there, Amir?
No, that was perfect, Justin. And it really is everybody kind of the natural evolution of, like Justin said, what we were doing before. Because I actually really missed the LinkedIn Live events. And this is even better because we get to even have it in our home here. And so the only thing I'd add to what Justin said is, you missed this, Justin, but I will, with your allowance, repeat this, which is, I was so grateful that you all encouraged me to do this. And I want everybody in the community to know loud and clear, look, I talked to Jess, I talked to my wife, I told her, look, this time at Thursday, this is a special time. It's the community time every week. Now, all of you are busy. We all have different commitments, family, work, and whatever. And I do apologize in advance for any weeks where I'm traveling or on the road, but you can be sure that unless I'm literally at an event like GDC or at a work event where I'm literally in like a conference call or a meeting, I will be here. I take that responsibility very seriously because Justin said, we have obviously our resources, we have the community, we have the website, we have the way I communicate with you with posts and comments, but this is different and really special. And in weeks where unfortunately I might not be able to come, I wanted you to know that we're going to have a whole mix of really cool stuff. Both for some of the weeks that I'm here, we're thinking of a whole range of guests to have for the community. I've also told the mods that for times when I can't be here, or even just general as their suggestions, we're really opening it up to have ideas. And you definitely can raise for the community ideas that you might have of someone that you think is an interesting person to have here. So that's everything I have to say, Justin. I mean, I'm very happy with you or with Zell to take this conversation whichever way we want. Like, I'm certainly happy to take a bunch of Q&A. I'm happy to discuss like kind of specific things that you think Zell or Justin might be interesting to the community. Why don't you guys guide me a little bit and we can let the folks in chat guide us too.
Well, so is this going to basically be run like an old clubhouse room where it's just people talking and then bringing people up, or is there a structure to this one, Justin? What's your plan for this one?
Well, actually, I think this is Amir's first live event too as well. Amir, it is sort of like LinkedIn audio events. You can actually see the hand icon. There's actually one person already with his hand requesting to speak. So we can do it that way. You can monitor chats. Zell, if you want to help monitor chats as well. But I would say before we get in all into that, why don't we just warm up here? Let's just do a little push up, right? And why don't we just get right into it? Let's let's just get right down to the state of the gaming industry. And I know everyone's been talking
That's a
about
good
it.
one.
There's a lot of, there's a lot of talk right now, and especially with certain companies that have shut down recently. There has been other hot topics. Of course, the layoffs is always going to be there. So we can, if you want to touch base on that, or just, I think you just did a recent post, Amir, talking about the future of the gaming industry. So any one of those three hot topics, feel free to chat as well to chime in what topics that you want to talk. And then we promise we have an hour really dedicated that Amir is going to dedicate before he jumps on his business call. And then we'll leave it up to open networking. But yeah, let us know in chat as well.
All right, going through the chat here. A few things
Go
that
ahead, Sal.
came up were people asking questions. Actually, a lot of people are networking and chatting with each other in the chat, which is wonderful. There was also a question about maybe doing a lightning round, so a bunch of small questions done quickly at the end. I think that'd be a fun way to wrap it up, and it would give us a chance to go through those things. Does anyone have any specific things they wanted to ask about in chat there?
Yeah, and what I'll do is ask a few questions. Ask a few questions in chat, gang. And what I'll do is, that's perfect, Zell. Queue up a few questions, and I will give a light answer to what Justin said, and then we can just have some nice back and forth. So I'll say, and I'll invite Justin and Zell to add anything they want. I mean, look, everybody, this is timely because, as many of you may know from the Discord or on LinkedIn, I was at DICE recently. And as a result of that, I really appreciated that I had the opportunity to do 2 roundtables and a workshop that were focused on early careers and also the state of the industry. And that helped clarify my thinking and also observe what I saw there. I think that what you may have noticed in my tone lately, and this reflects what I'm seeing, because I always try to be as honest with you all as possible, is the increasing realities and shifts that I see in what's going on. It's interesting to me that it's kind of like a tale of two cities right now. For all the talks about AI, I have long believed that the bigger trend that is presenting for our industry is a geographic shift. And what I mean by that is there's significant differences between salary costs for devs in different parts of the world, with the ability and capability of people in those regions increasingly closing or coming to levels of equality. Because of that, studios are increasingly, and developers are increasingly, having nucleuses of teams that still remain within the West, but increasingly having pockets of that development in other parts of the world. And so what's interesting is, if you take a step back and you look at the data, which, as you all know, I do, interestingly, the overall employment in the industry is actually, to the best of my knowledge, going up, even with how much layoffs have been, if you can believe it. I believe hiring has been exceeding layoffs. That can feel impossible when you look around to your right and to your left, and it feels like every day or every other day a cut is happening. But the reason for that is our perception of what we see and what we perceive here is overwhelmingly what's happening in the theaters and geographies that are proximate to us. And we don't see all the other places in Latin America, in India, in Asia, in Eastern Europe, Vietnam, etc., that are hiring large numbers of people. And so I will basically say that is the largest dynamic that I'm noticing of our time that is likely to continue, which is this global reorientation of where games jobs are in the market. And so, as a human being who sees all people as being the same, I have total empathy and heartbreak for the thousands of conversations I hear sometimes every month of tough situations for devs in places that I live or that I've traditionally been to. But from a humanist perspective, I also try to be mindful that there's boatloads of people in other parts of the world who also may have never had access to the games industry or games jobs, who now may be getting their first chance to work in the industry for the first time. And so it's my trying to hold all of these things at the same time in my heart and in my head at the same time, and many other trends. But that's kind of maybe the one big observation I'll put out there.
Yeah, I've definitely seen a lot of people reaching out and speaking from Turkey, Brazil, right, who didn't have access to any people even closely tangential to me, who now have actually had a lot of opportunities, who have been reaching out and making connections, even started their own small studios or have given more visibility, even just since you started doing these resources, Amir, right? And people getting out there and being like, hey, we are doing stuff outside of the US where it's been so Western centric for the last 2 decades.
I just want to say
With
that I
that,
invited
go ahead, Justin.
Luke on stage. No, I just said
Oh, great.
I invited Luke on stage. And for those
Hey,
who
Luke.
are not aware, Luke Davis is one of our mods, but he is also a recruiter for that gaming company and has helped out many artists and emissions as well. So welcome, Luke.
I
What's
appreciate
up, everybody?
having Luke. Thank you so much to help with some of these questions. So here's what I'm going to actually do. This is great because questions are already popping up. And the thing that would make me really satisfied is if we could answer everybody's questions. So I'm actually just going to start going from top. And I really thank the mods for marking these with questions. Oh, go ahead.
Hold up, Amir. I'm actually going through with Simone and we're prioritizing them. Check the lead mod channel. We have a prioritized list of the questions in a Google Docs. You can just go through them one at a time. Give me 2 seconds and I'll paste
where? Oh, sure.
I'm pasting it right now. It's going to be in lead mods channel.
Oh,
There you
great.
go. Good. The doc is up. Start from the top, and that way we track which ones have all been documented and gotten through. If you wouldn't mind.
Fancy.
Oh, great. Wow, this is
Look at
very
Alex.
cool.
It's not his
We've done
first
this
rodeo.
Right. So I would, okay, let me go through these. Right. Okay, thank you, everybody. I was just opening it up. All right, I'm going to start at the top. Hi, Amir. I'm a recent grad from RIT. Salty that I wasn't able to see your presentation when you were there. Well, I feel salty too. But the good news is I think the world of Jen and I will be back, and certainly I'll have many other talks where you can see me. I'm recently getting back into coding and building a portfolio. How fast would I have to be to get a portfolio out there so I can get hired as soon as possible? You know, I wouldn't think about it in terms of speed per se. I'll let Luke or everyone else here chime into that. My suggestion is, and you're going to hear me say this a lot when specific portfolio questions come up, whether this is art or whether this is engineering. And I want to actually connect this to another question that was asked about mentors. Someone said, how do we find mentors who will help connect with us and help us grow, not just advice, but networking and skill building? I'm going to blend these two into one response. I think the best way to do things like this is to ask other people in the space what they in the specialty for roles they've either hired for or that they've applied for that they're seeing themselves, what they believe constitutes a really good portfolio. So if, as an example, you go on our site, many of you may know that at asgc.gg, we have a segment for community coaches for mentors. We certainly have those for engineering. We have them for art. We have for 20 different disciplines. You can reach out to anybody there. And I recognize that even with 2,500 people, they get a lot of outreaches. But if you reach out to a handful of people, you will generally get a response, and that is something to ask there and to find a mentor there. The second option is we have functional chats here in the Discord, so you can also use those to ask a question and get advice there. Another thing that I suggest to people do is you can reach out to your alumni network and you can ask people who you see in your alumni network whether they would be willing to chat with you. Another thing I suggest is I have what I like to call the +2 rule, which is let's say you're an analyst. I would not reach out to a senior director at a company. Find someone who's max 2 levels above you, who's like a manager or a senior analyst or something like that. and write someone like that and have it not be about a job at all. The number one thing you can do to disarm somebody and get help or get mentorship is to say from the outset, I just want to chat with you. I just want to ask a specific question about a portfolio. I just want to ask you a question about, mentorship or these types of things for a response. And the last thing I'll put out there is, even if I saw it in the chat, and I'll see where it comes up in the prioritization. Some people often ask me questions about recruiters or even like professional recruiters out there, some of whom are amazing, like Lizzie Mintis, for example, I think is just fabulous. If you write again recruiters and you ask them about jobs, they probably won't respond, or it'll just be like maybe potentially overwhelming or maybe like kind of stalkerish. But if you say to them, this isn't a job question, I just again want a specific question on this one thing, you might get help. So those are 4 to 5 ideas that hopefully are helpful for finding mentors or for asking people for specific help on things like portfolios. And if all of that isn't enough, as always, you can tag the mods and make suggestions. I used to think about, I'm a big basketball fan. The Celtics would always say that even if nothing else was working, they would give it to Larry Bird and he would step back and shoot a 3. If you try anything else that I suggested and you still feel like you're not getting a satisfying outcome and you're like, hey, Amir, I still don't know what to do with my engineering portfolio, raise it to the mods. We'll put it on our plan. And maybe even I'll have an expert in the community just write a guide on engineering portfolios and we can put it in the resource library. So hopefully that's a good answer. Anything else to add, team on stage?
I'd probably just add from the student perspective. Also, yes, Jen is awesome. If you have not connected with Jen yet, connect with Jen at RIT because she's great. I just kind of honing in on the recent grad piece. One thing I see students do a lot is like really put a lot of weight on their portfolio, and like it's overwhelming to just look at the blank site that you have and like it's empty. It's like, what do I put in this? So I would almost think about it less of like how fast to get your portfolio 100%, and how fast can you put a finished project on there? Can you show something that you've created, that you implemented? Can you put one thing on there that's done, and then just keep stacking that one at a time? I think students sometimes, it's like you look at the whole elephant. That's not a metaphor, but you look at the whole thing and you're like, that's so far to get there. So with students, sometimes I tell them like, don't worry about that. Just focus on one project, putting it on there, making sure people can see it. And then once you have one thing, cool, do the next thing. But don't look at it and try to build your whole, portfolio like, Alexander has from day one. Like you're going to start a little bit smaller as a student, but that's kind of where you have to start. Is the only thing I'd add.
Yeah, I mean, make everything in bite-sized chunks. Otherwise, you're going to get overwhelmed. Like you have to treat every game development career, especially if you go into game design or other rare disciplines, and as like maybe a decade-long journey, right? And that means doing the things that not only like you need to start. You need to get a framework. If you need help with frameworks or how to structure it, there are resources out there to help you. There's classes to teach how to do it, but you need to make content for it, and that's always going to take time. Whether it's a game jam over a 3-day weekend or a month-long project or even a multi-year AAA project you worked on, you need to take the time as you were developing things to take pictures, create assets, create resources, and write notes about what you do. I do this little visual a couple of times. Apologies, first, I didn't plan on this, but I have literally, here it is. All right, an entire binder full of these, right? And what are these? These are notes that I've taken over 20 years. This is the whole thing. There's an entire case of these covering just a decade of the work that I've done. I can pick up
Dude,
random
that's
page
so
here.
cool.
Like, hey, random blizzard times, right? And because you need to remember not only what did you do, but why you did it, and so you can explain it to others and yourself in the future. I'm not going to make this into a show, but this stuff allows you to go back later, remember what you did, why you did it, and turn that into portfolio material. So that's something I'm going to recommend to you. If you're overwhelmed, just make something and document it.
Good.
That is amazing. Justin, anything to add, bud?
I think everyone had good points. I just want to add the portfolio link is probably the most important piece that people forget. So what I mean by that is they go to show it on their LinkedIn profile. You get a special link. You job interview got to showcase your portfolio. And remember that recruiters have 6 seconds to review your resume. And that is a Google, you can Google that metric. That is a metric that recruiters see your resume. And
Yeah, recruiters only have a very limited amount of time they spend looking at your portfolio. Often the header, the title, and maybe even just what's on the very first screen of that portfolio. Now, I actually have a resource I can pull up if we need it later, so I won't take too much time for that. But the amount of time you spend on a portfolio as a recruiter is tiny, right? I happen to know what Justin's going to say here. He came and said it to my Discord community. But if you look at any portfolio, what people are going to look at is basically that very top section. See, are you a vague match? And only then will they send it on to a hiring manager who might then take more time to look into the details and see if it's going to make sense for them to push you on to the next person, actually send you that design test, that art test, that programming test.
Yeah, and something I want to add to this stuff about exposure and links is it's super interesting. So there's a page that very few people take a look at on LinkedIn that tells you where people spend the most time on your profile page. And regularly, at least for me, I can tell you, this might surprise you, I think 70, 80% of the time, so 4/5 of the time that people spend on my LinkedIn page, they spend in 2 sections. The biggest one by far is the About Me section, and the second one is the Featured section. The reason I mention this is, to Justin's point, if you don't have your portfolio link and all the other key stuff about you in a nice About Me section, you are losing a huge opportunity for exposure, and definitely lose your featured posts. If you made a cool video or cool art or anything like that, really put that to work for you, because that's where most of the eyeballs go on the page. All right, I think we've explored this pretty thoroughly. A fun one next. What's your favorite game from the last 5 years? We can go around for this quickly. I'm going to say, oh, Jesus.
What you're thinking, Amir, quick point of order, please stop using the Q emoji. That's you. Simone are using that to track which ones have been pasted in the doc. Someone else is going in there and marking it. It's just not helping. Please just stop doing that. Thank you so much. Sorry, Amir.
Thank you, Zell. I would say, if you forced me to choose one, I would probably say Dave the Diver, because I love it. It uses so many different innovative gameplay styles. It's obviously been such a big part of our community as well. But if pressed, it would be a tie between that and maybe Super Mario Wonder, which was my choice for Game of the Year over Baldur's Gate, which people mercilessly gave me a hard time over, but I wrote a whole long piece on it and why. Let's go around. Gentlemen, your favorite game of the last 5 years?
Oh, I'll go quick. Blueprints, hands down. Such an incredible, unexpected hit. The second to that would probably be Inscription.
Ooh, good one.
Those are really good ones. I'll say Destiny 2. Obviously, I got my start with Bungie, and I've been a huge Destiny 2 fanboy. I know it's in a bit of a weird spot now, but man, last 5 years definitely was D2.
Nice. How about you, Justin?
I'm going to say for the Rivals.
Marvel Rivals, did he say?
I think so. Either that or the Fraggles. And if the Fraggle Rock video game came out, I missed that because I need to play it.
Nice. Okay, next one. Should game devs in the US lobby the government to ask for grants to fund game development, other arts like other countries have? I mean, absolutely. I think we should probably lobby the government for many things. As a result of having covered Canada for kind of random reasons, although I love it because it's one of my favorite parts of the job is going up there over and over again, I got a very in-depth look at how the grants process and things went over there. And then I researched what it was like over here. And I've also met some friends, for example, like Mark Delora, who's, much deeper on that type of policy stuff. So what I would say is the answer is absolutely yes. The length of time and the ability to achieve such things, pretty difficult, particularly as administrations change and there's more complexities to take note of. I will note this in my mind as a point of interest because I actually don't think we talk about this very much in the US. And so I will actually ask Mark and a few other who are smart policy people. Maybe that's something to talk about another time in even more depth or in a post. Is it smart or stalkerish to reach out to recruiters after having applied to a job? So, I'll be super curious what everyone thinks, particularly Luke on this one, but I'll give you my take, which is, look, it's not only a general answer, but I also think this life cycle has changed since 2022. When all this stuff first started, I could reach out as like the leader of our community to somebody in a position if I needed to, and at least I would get a response, even if candidates in some cases wouldn't get responses. Now, even for me, if I write someone who's even a friend who's in talent, they're often so underwater, I might not hear back from them for like 3 days or 4 days or even a week. And so, I think we need to realize that there are a lot of good actors, amazing actors and talent who are just completely inundated. And I guess what I would say is, what is it that you want to accomplish by reaching out to that person? If the point is to let them know that you applied, they know that you applied. If the point is to try to get their attention on your application, I would gently suggest that really getting attention on an application is that dreaded word of networking, which is like actually having a meaningful relationship to someone on the hiring team or the recruiting team, which I don't think is something one achieves just by like checking in on that. If you literally have a question like you're actually not sure like what happened to your application, you could write about that. I also don't think it's out of line if a long time has passed, like 2 months or 3 months, to ping someone and say, hey, I just wanted to check on the status of my application, or I had a phone screen and I haven't heard anything, but I would be understanding again that people are just so underwater that they may not respond back. So I would say that I personally would not reach out to a recruiter unless there was some very specific information that I could not obtain myself that I actually wanted to gain, or there was something meaningful that you wanted to achieve. I think writing someone just to get on their radar doesn't achieve much and is probably not a good use of your time, but I take a harder view on this than many others. What do others think?
I am currently entering some more questions. Please go ahead.
All right, Luke, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's. I love the way you phrase it. Like, is it the best use of your time? Probably not. I mean, just to give some context, I mean, this was even a couple years ago when I was working on roles for Bungie. We had a technical gameplay design role. Yeah, reached 4,000 applicants, and that's one role across however many Bungie had posted back in 2022. 4,000 applicants is a ton to go through, and people will talk about the ATS bot and the recruiting AI. I'm still pretty skeptical on most of those claims for the most part from what I've seen. So the numbers game is just like, I see it as two ways. Like, does it hurt? No. Like maybe the recruiter's really up on their LinkedIn, and one, you message the right recruiter, because just because you're messaging a Bungie recruiter doesn't mean you're messaging the recruiter for the role that you applied to. But maybe they're on top of their LinkedIn messages. Maybe they'll respond. Maybe they'll see a portfolio. Maybe it'll come through. But it's not, like Amir said, it's not something I would spend a lot of time doing. I would take that time and instead use the mentor list and try to find and build connections at Bungie and try to actually have mentoring conversations, get in front of people in your discipline to build that, again, the dreaded word of networking. But at the same time, I don't think it hurts if you pop over a little message. Sometimes, especially if you're applying for smaller companies, sometimes it can be helpful to just like keep your name out there, right? Like maybe it's a 1% increase in your overall awareness, but I think that's just a numbers game to be realistic about. Like, don't take it personally if they don't reach back out to you. I know that's easy. I've been on that side reaching out to people and haven't heard back. Don't take it personally. They could be dealing with thousands of applicants working through the process. But to Amir's point, if you do go through phone screens, 100% feel at most studios like feel comfortable reaching back out for phone screens for an update, or if you're in the interview process and something changes, you realize you put the wrong resume. Once you're in process, yeah, definitely that kind of changes the level of communication expectation there is what I would say.
That's great, Luke. Are there areas of games which are safe to orient toward career-wise going forward, as much as they can be, of course? It seems like entry-level QA is almost impossible to get into now, parentheses, staying positive, just making observations. I appreciate your positivity. This is a tricky question, but here's my take on it. It is so hard to know what is safe right now. So if I, for example, look at statistics, I can tell you right now, at this point in time, what are safer careers out of the 20 functional areas that we track, and which are the ones that are the toughest to get into. For example, statistics would tell you that the safest career is things in like engineering and software development. But at the same time, as many of you know, there's an awful lot of talk, and who knows what the reality is, right? That AI and all these things could have a major impact on coding and the viability of those jobs. Hard to say. On the other end, there are jobs that statistically tend to have the hardest go at it. QA is definitely one of them. Writing and narrative is another. Game design is a very, very hard job to get into. I feel more confident saying, and I'm sorry to say this, but again, I always try to be very, very honest. The ones that are at the harder end, like QA, like writing a narrative, like game design, I do think these are going to remain really hard because the number of people pursuing those jobs is a lot. The number of degree-bearing games programs has increased by 10x since 2013. And most people who go to games programs statistically major in things like game design and subfields of game design. So that is very, very tough. On the other end of the spectrum, I will say, again, if it's something that you like, my take on the safer side would be, what jobs can you get that have more applicability outside of games? So for example, I fairly pragmatically majored in business. And as many of you know, because I talk about it a lot, I actually didn't work in games until I was, in my late 30s. But I did it because I figured business, finance, economics would have broad applicability to a lot of different fields. And so I would twist your question by, rather than saying what areas of games, I've tried to make a major point of emphasis this year and last year that if we look overall at all people of all ages, 85% of them over 12 months are not going to find work in games. So I would consider finding an area that gives you the best chance of finding a job rather than just finding a job in games. I tend to favor business. I think marketing is a good choice. I think a lot of these things have general applicability. So that would be my take on that question.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
I'd have to agree, narrative design, game design, right? Those are incredibly hard to get into, and they require a lot of proof because ultimately they're actually mid-level roles because they're directing the efforts of other people, but a lot of people still view them as entry-level roles. I will say that there is no shame, and everyone should understand that, in finding work that stably works for you, that allows you to continue to hone your craft on the side. In fact, I would encourage people who haven't been in the industry to do an 80-20 rule at this point. 80% of your time, focus that on what you need to do to keep your living, keep your health, keep your your quality of life where you need to be to stay alive, and then spend that 5th day a week, right, on leveling up your craft, doing applications, and treat that like a job. Spend 3-4 hours on that day, going out, putting out positions, and then doing craft. Because if you're not getting responses, there are not a lot of roles. That's just the case. But your chances are only going to improve the more you are leveling up your craft, the more you improve how you present yourself, the better you go out, you connect, you network, etc. But you have to treat it like work because it is work.
Yeah. And one more thing I would say is, there's always a difference between like majoring and what your main area of expertise is and education and exposure that one can have. For example, I made a poll for the community asking about kind of financial skills and also personal finance, like both. I've always believed that, and this one really small example, no matter what you do, even if you're an artist or if you're a writer or you're in game design, it's not rocket science. Believe me, if you're a strong artist, you can learn basic financial stuff. Like it is always helpful to know how to read a financial statement, to understand like how a profit and loss statement is put together. Like if something is going on at your business, you can understand why things are going well or not going well. And if you're that person, if again someone is choosing between 100 applicants or 4,000 applicants, and you have all these soft skills, that is some of the areas of differentiation that you can now find there. Luke, anything to add before we go to the next one, my friend?
Just real fast again, for students and early career folks, the only thing I'd add to that is don't be afraid to do project management, production, Jira, Confluence, documentation. Even if you're on the creative side, I've seen when you're looking at an early career artist, sometimes I see them focus all they do on art, but if it's the ones that often have, oh, like they dabbled in technical art, or they dabbled a little bit in more the technical side, or they dabbled in production and know how to do the project management side. When you really can, as a student, I think it can be helpful to kind of multi-class a little bit, if you would. And I know like in school, you're going to have the one track that you're most likely focused on, but that like to Zell's point of like, have the like 80-20, almost maybe like 80-20 of your major, like 80% within your preferred path, but then don't be afraid to multi-class a little bit.
That is phenomenal advice. Having a little bit of production skills from my time at Microsoft helped a lot when I got into game design and eventually did other roles as well. It's a phenomenal suggestion there, Luke. All right, we have about 10 questions left and we have 20 minutes. So you guys know what that means. We got about 2 minutes a question if we want to get through them all. That said, let's,
all right,
Amir, we'll let you set the pace.
I will go very quick and try to answer all of these. And if anyone else like really has something they want to say, just like butt in and like cut me off. All right. How useful are game jam participations? I think they are absolutely very useful. I think particularly if you're green and you haven't done stuff, it's great to just see what it's like to be in a game, develop skills of working on a team, to have work that you can actually show. All these things are great. And I think a lot of times because of the type of people from industry who participate in them, it's a built-in easy way to do some networking. And so the one thing I would say about this, it's fantastic, but if you can, if cost and budget and travel allow you, vary it up. Try to work with as many different groups in as many different places as you can. I have great views of game jams, particularly for organizations that do them really, really well. It's been a discouraging time to post on social media. DMs and emails are overwhelmed and overwhelmed by AI content. How do we reach people, tricks and strategies? Like, honestly, I'm going to tell you this. The biggest trick, in my opinion, is don't try to do stuff that is tricks. Just find something you want to write about. So I'll tell you what I did. I started with 800 followers. I don't even know how long ago, 5 years ago or something like that. I sat down and I made a list of what are 3 to 5 things that I really like to write about. I really like to write about games. I really like to write about careers. I really like to write about data-oriented stuff. I really like to write about family and like other quirky nonsense. I know what I'm good at writing about. I know who I am and I know how I can be authentic. I would say the more that you can write something interesting and fun that really has your voice and authenticity, do it. But I would also say the key is patience and persistence. I posted a lot, at least twice a day for like 18 months before I got any meaningful traction. If I think about my wife, for example, God bless her, she is now one of the top 100 people in the US for economics and public policy on LinkedIn. And she also started from, a very small number, but she kept at it a long time. So just keep at it and know that growing your base and impressions and engagements, it's really parabolic. It just takes a long time before you get going. I have a question regarding Discord itself. Given the rollout of recent identification requirements that may impact folks, any thoughts on this? I am not well informed about this, so I will direct this to you, Zell. Maybe you could comment on that, please.
Sure, and Justin can jump in on this too. So for the moment, I want to be very clear, right? Amir Satvat server is not being marked as an adult server. We do, however, recommend that anyone who is here be 18 or up, but we are not putting on that Discord restriction because we don't want people to be forced to put in their requirements. We feel like the standards of conduct we have here in the server have worked, requiring people to be connected to a LinkedIn, reporting them to use their real identities, and that has worked out here. So we are not planning any changes there. Justin, feel free to jump in if you have anything extra to say.
Oh, you 100%. And the only thing I will add is we are actively reviewing mod tickets. So please send your mod tickets if there's any issues.
Wonderful. Okay, I'm going to take this next question if you don't mind. So
Please.
Someone has asked that they're about to finish a client project and don't have a follow-up client yet. They have a project they're working on their own, but they are struggling to find more clients. So this is something I struggle with. I want you to know this is hard. It's gotten way hard in the last 3 years. I've been doing independent consultancy since 2015. Yeah, about 2015. You always need to have about 3 clients that you're working through if you want a steady stream of projects. That means one that you're working with, one that's warming up, and one that has an opportunity down the road, because half the time they're going to fall through. Also, make sure you have that budget to keep it going. I'm sorry, but this, it's really hard. Again, do reach out, go ahead and do LinkedIn posts, try to build an identity for what the craft you are doing. If you can, talk to a previous client and see if there's things they're willing to let you show to help build that snowball attention, to help get new leads. But again, it is actually, it's, what you planted, what you harvested today, you planted a year ago. It's just, that's how client work has to be.
Great. And then we kind of answered this earlier, but I do want to give Justin his chance to talk to it because it was specifically aimed at him. Justin, they wanted your take specifically on kind of this question of reaching out to recruiters. Is it a good look, a bad look, a good icebreaker, knowing, how they approach, if they're looking for a job, if they're not looking a job? Like, how do you feel about people reaching out to you?
Okay. Please bear with me. Miami weather is not taking me very well right now. But I will say, when reaching out to recruiters, yes, we do expect it. And I'm sure Luke can mention this too as well. We do expect it. And good recruiters will respond to those messages. I know specifically Matt Barney tries to answer all of his recruiter questions when asked. He doesn't feel like it's stalking. I do not feel like stalking. Now, it does not mean that other recruiters will feel like it's stalking. I do know some gaming recruiters, I'm not going to say their names, where they will get mad and say, "Oh, I'm so tired of these people messaging me." Yes, it's true. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. People do get mad. Does that mean that you shouldn't do it? Absolutely not. You should still do it. It's common courtesy, and it only helps your chances because, like Matt will tell you, or I will tell you at times, if your name is on the top of my inbox, it's just another reminder. Is that right, Luke?
Sorry if I could just hijack the presentation a little bit and answer Sal's answer. Yes, so I was also not only in a similar boat, but I continue to be, as is the reality of freelancing and contracts. And what I have found that helped me personally is not relying exclusively on client contracts, but having a passive revenue source that can be in the form of a Ko-fi or Patreon. So if you have different tiers, different systems where maybe people can, for $5, see your devlogs, see your process, see a blog, then you get 5 people, you get 10 people, and that accrues to you not having to put much effort than hey, this is what my Git looks like, spend 5 minutes, and you can start having kind of a passive source of income. And something that workshops and public speaking is something that I don't hear a lot of people talking about. I have been able to either go to universities and just tell them about kind of my career. So if you know any friends that are in colleges, or if you know anyone that's teaching, reach out to them, to their games programs. If that's something you want to specialize in, be like, hey, I have this many years of experience, came across your program. I'd love to help out, the next cohort of students. Any way we can kind of start a conversations and see what that program's going to look like. Locally, I've seen 4 figures for public speaking, but it also can start in 100 to 300. And when you are like back to back contracts, every penny counts. So those are a few things that I would recommend. And Simone, my DMs are always open if anyone wants to chat about this, because I get asked about it a lot. And it's rough. It's rough out here, but like we need to just make a lot of different sources of income until we get the one stable job. And so
Thank
I
you,
remain a little
Andrea.
hopeful.
That was really nice,
All right,
Andrea. Thank you very much. Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
All right, let's go on to the next question here. Thank you, Andrea. I really appreciate that. Is there a process? There's 2 questions about networking, so I've bundled them together. Is there a process for being a healthy, effective networker with devs at cons in general? And Wendy would love to hear some tips for first-time attendees to GDC. So,
Yeah. I'd love to take a crack at this. Look, I was just at DICE, and I now, I've been to a lot of conferences over these 5 years, and I can tell you, the best thing that you can do is in my opinion, is be as relaxed and informal as possible. Like, I feel like in a successful event, both for me and what I observe, for example, for people who are, even if I know they're looking for work or their early career or whatever, is like, you go to any of these events, and what will inevitably happen is they'll be the place that everybody hangs out. At DICE, it's the Aria. At Gamescom, it's the Marriott. I guess at a lot of events, it's the Marriott. At TGA, it's the Marriott. At GDC, it's the Marriott. And what will happen is people will just cluster in the hotel, and you'll be like, Jesus Christ, that's like Todd Howard. And it's like, Steve Singer from Nintendo. And they'll just be like sitting there. And if you just go up and you're like, how are you doing? Like, what are you playing these days? Like, what movies are you watching? You might end up having like a 1 or 2 hour conversation with someone perfectly pleasant. And at the end of that conversation, even if it's not someone who's a name, it might just be someone who works at a company that you like. You may end up, talking about work things, but even if you don't, your only goal in that conversation, this is how I think as a BD2, your goal is at the end of the conversation, the person thinks, hey, Amir's a cool person for me to spend time with. I would like to spend more time with them and get to know them better. And even better, if they say to themselves, oh, I remember Amir. When I think Amir, I think insert several nice adjectives here. So I would say if you do that versus having some objective that you want to achieve when talking to people, you'll have a much better outcome. Tips for GDC. I would say make a plan of what types of talks and events you want to see. Kind of go well prepared. I would say as much as you can, try to have an awareness of other events that are going on off campus. That's not always the easiest thing to ferret out, but if you ask a bunch of different people, they will kind of give you a sense of that. We even have a GDC channel here in GDC, so that can help a lot. I don't want to monopolize there. Those are just 2 ideas. Gang, kick in a few more great GDC ideas.
Yeah. The biggest thing, humanize the people you're interacting with. Don't get me wrong. It's lovely when someone comes over and says, oh, Alex, I love this thing you did. That's nice, but that's a 30-second conversation. You kind of have a 90-second like, oh, great, glad to hear it, move on, right? When someone engages with you as a human being and isn't awed or weirded out or makes it about, whatever cruel, crazy thing it is that you've done or that you imagine they do, it's kind of a relief, right, at conventions, because when everyone is in business mode and business posturing mode all the time, it gets exhausting. So phenomenal advice there.
I have just one to add, and it's not a very happy one, unfortunately. But the reality is that even the year that I went to GDC for the first time, it was very dangerous if you're of a marginalized community. There was a situation of a roofie, which I know we don't want to be talking about that, but there was a manager that was touching people in a bar. So the work for GDC starts now. If you are in the GDC 2026 channel, reach out to DMs, start connecting, start networking, because you need to have that pack. you need to be in groups, you need to have a buddy system. So like I know Sel, I know Amir, I know so many people where when I go to these events, I have like 40 contacts that worst comes to worst, I know that I can rely on them. And especially with our raffle tickets, you need to have that like you have a plan for whatever situation may arise. But that's the reality of these events. It's not particular to the games industry. It also doesn't help that it's a predominantly dominated industry, right? So that is just something to bear in mind. Thank you. That is very sweet of Amir. Again, not a very fun note, but just one that I wanted to raise a little bit.
Yeah, and I do want to say that if you ever are in a situation like that, feel free to build a pack on the fly too. A lot of people will be like in a situation, they're uncomfortable, they're frozen up, and they don't know what to do. Just even find someone random. If someone is actively making you uncomfortable, a random person has a higher chance of not being that than you not doing anything, right? That at least makes it going from like one bad egg to like a second person to help you. Like, listen, I'm uncomfortable. Can you just take me to the other side of the bar? Or like, oh my God, walk up to a random person, be like, oh my God, I haven't seen you since this morning. Get out of that conversation, get out of the situation. Just be that people will understand when something's off and just say, hey, I need to get to the other side of the bar. Can you take me there right now? They will do it. And I've seen people do this at a drop of a hat. So there are people who want to help, but you need to let them know you need it.
Yeah,
And
I'm
I'll
really
just do
happy
another
that
quick
subject
plug
came.
on-
Go ahead, Luke, please. Yeah, please.
Just one last quick plug on the safety piece, because I like it too. If you're on GDC grounds or around GDC and you see someone in the bright neon shirts, the conference associates or event staff, I'm gonna be one of those again this year. Feel free to go up to them if things are happening, and they'll escalate things appropriately. If you don't want to go, if you see something, you could say something to them if you don't feel comfortable, and we know the chain to escalate things up there too. But yeah, like we said, we have the whole GDC channel here to buddy up and pack up and message. So that's a good note.
Yeah,
And
and
by
then
the way,
I'll say, go ahead, Sal, please.
one more thing, and this is like taking a step away from the safety. This is a general tip from anyone in any social context. If you're in a conversation and you don't want to be there, you can just say these magic words. Hey, pleasure speaking with you. I've got to go. And just be like, hey, you made it pleasant. You have the option to come back later if you need to, or you decide you want to, but you can get out of any situation just saying that. And if they get persistent, just like, sorry, talk later, bye, and just go. You can always do that without being socially awkward, without feeling weird, and it's completely appropriate. It's what a lot of us do just when we're feeling a little stressed. So it's a perfect out under any situation.
Perfect. I am going to lightning round these last few questions as best as I can. Here we go. How is the game industry in Australia doing? It still feels dull. Do you have any metrics for us? What I can tell you off the top of my head is that as of 2022-2023, the Australia games market doubled over about 6 years, so it grew like crazy. It's been having, like many other markets, a little bit of stagnation. There's still a lot of really quality outlets of major studios here and indies. I would say that for a market that I know even better, which is the New Zealand one, I would say there's a bonkers numbers of breakout studios happening there, but I think it's doing pretty well. I know some folks at the IGEA, I track a bunch of studios there, so we could have another conversation about that sometime. I'm very, very good friends with Jerry, who is at Playside, so I think there's a number of good players, but there's no question, right? Smaller market can be a little bit harder to find opportunities, absolutely. When building professional relationships, like in mentoring, how do you balance vulnerability and honesty with professionalism? I kind of peel this like an onion. I always assume strict professionalism at first, because kind of like what Justin was saying about recruiters, you really don't know where someone is at. You don't know who they're going to share things with. Like, have the people that are like your trust system that you really want to vent in or be vulnerable or stuff like that. But my suggestion would be super professional and buttoned up with everybody else and let them earn that vulnerability. Have your safety zones for your vulnerability. I've had a lot of folks who I built connections with. When I apply for a job, they tell me they're not allowed to give internal referrals. Respectfully, I've never heard of such a thing in my entire life. In any company that I know of, people can give internal referrals and put them in the system. So that is not something that I'm familiar with. I'm not saying that your friend or acquaintance is being dishonest. Maybe they are, in fact, in a situation where somehow that isn't possible because they don't want nepotism or something. But I have to admit, in 20 years of working, that's a new one for me. Are ghost jobs, fake jobs listings as much of an issue as they've been said to be? I think that we use ghost jobs as a little bit of a blanket term for a lot of different things. It is true that there are a lot of jobs that end up getting reposted, and there are a lot of dead jobs, which are companies have relisted jobs that are still up that haven't been taken down. Are those kind of ghost jobs? Maybe, but I would say a true ghost job where something is like a total scam or like, is kind of a fake or dummy listing. I believe, based upon the data, that is relatively limited, but a lot of those other things that I mentioned, which also suck because as a candidate, it's not a real job to you, that is a problem, and it's not an easy thing to solve, but I try to post often about how I wish there was more tooling and help for people in talent so they could get those closed jobs or relisted jobs down. Let me go down the page. Is that everything?
That's
Did
it.
we do it?
That's the last one right there. You nailed it with a minute to spare.
All right, that's fantastic. Well, everybody, thank you so much. This was really, really fun. And like I said, we will vary this up so not every chat is a Q&A, but I think certainly having Q&A chats where we kind of work through questions I know is hopefully valuable and useful. I want to thank again everybody in mod leadership. I want to thank everybody on stage with me for this wonderful idea. It was a lot of fun for me. And like I said, I will be here as many weeks as I can. The next few weeks definitely are a little bit crazy with travel, so I apologize with travel and GDC, but I will be back as soon as I can for another. Andrea has a quick thing to say on ghost jobs. Go ahead, please.
Very quickly, it's also like a lack of information about the immigration system. There is a specific visa where you need to prove, basically, short end is, Amir is such an excellent person, even though he's, let's hypothetically say, from a different country. But we need to prove to the government that you are the only person that can do this job while you're in our studio. So that's why you might see studios put out a job that's up for like a few hours. It's to justify that. There's like a more lengthy explanation, but it's more or less just they need to show like, no, we tried looking for somebody better than Amir and there's nobody. But you only had it up for an hour. There's nobody better than Amir, everyone. There's nobody better than Amir. So sorry to put you on the spot as an example, but
no, it was nice. It was nice having you say there's nobody better than Amir 4 times. That gave me a nice self-esteem boost going into the evening. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Luke, can you help me do open networking?
Yeah, I'll try to look for it right now. Let me see.
It's hard to find. It's hard to find that button that says "Open the stage to everyone" that they can speak. If not, I'll just start bringing people on stage. Wait, open stage. Did that work? No.
No.
I did it. All right, I'm gonna start moving people, if that's okay.
Yeah, I'm not seeing a better way to do this easily.
All right, if you want to talk to people, raise your hand. Anyways, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. Coming in good.
Okay. Just as a reminder, everyone, thank you for your patience. This is our first event, so hopefully you can join us for many more events, and hopefully we'll have this better in control. I think I got a few people on stage. And then next week we have Emily Muckin from Reddit, Amazon. There we go. Hello, everybody. Can you say something?
Hello.
Hello.
There we go.
Hello.
And we'll figure out how to get everyone on stage next week. I promise.
It's always the first pancake, right? It's the first pancake is always the weird one.
I don't think I've ever heard that before. The
The
first
first
pancake. What
pancake.
does that
I forget
mean?
where I heard that. The first pancake. Whenever you're
No,
cooking
it's
pancakes,
real.
the first one you cook is never as good as the next ones you do because they're
It's
like
like
the payout.
That is
wobbly
true.
and
Yeah,
a little
100%.
off,
First
maybe
pancake.
burnt.
Yeah, you gotta do it. You
Yeah.
gotta do it a few times, then you get it down.
100%. I don't know if it's the pan heating up or something. There's probably some science behind it, but I would choose to just view that as philosophy.
It still tastes
mean,
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
A pancake's a pancake.
Now I know I'm a weirdo because I prefer the first pancake.
Nice.
Usually when I make them,
Thank you.
it's got the perfect like
Did I have my hand
crispiness around the outside.
raised?
Anyway, yeah, I'm a weirdo confirmed.
Darn.
No, it's all good. I just never heard that before, but that's cool. All right, I think I invite everyone. If not, just raise your hand.
Wait,
I was
did
wondering why
even
you
have my
guys.
hand raised?
You know?
Yeah.
You're-
So when you should be on it if you have your hand raised.
I was curious why you guys don't just open a voice channel because it
That
should
might
just
be
hold.
just like swap people.
We have a voice channel we could
What-
use. We have to open to
what-
network one. We could just drag people to.
Well,
It
you
might
know
be
what?
up in there.
You know what? This is our
Or
first
like-
pancake.
I mean, we're already here.
No,
No, but
At
I
this
could.
point, we're-
We could
There
do
we
that.
go.
Yeah, it's
I
just a
used-
suggestion. It makes it easier
Yeah.
for certain.
It
types
will
of
definitely
networking,
make it
and
easier. Yeah.
And I know you.
Well,
could,
Justin,
it-
I could do it if you want me to.
We will do that. We will do that next week. For right now, let's just do our first pancake.
Yeah, I mean, like,
I love
well,
saying
everybody's already
words now.
here.
Right,
Sizzle,
exactly.
sizzle.
What flavor of pancake are we?
Oh God.
Okay,
Good
maybe
one.
this is kind of a crazy answer, but I
Butter
really,
pancake.
I
I think
really like
that
multi-grain
bitter
pancakes.
tasting pancake that still tastes
My
good.
God.
Like I would
Banana.
say orange.
Chocolate chip banana.
Orange?
Chocolate
Yeah,
chip
but here's the
banana's
thing
really
there.
good.
What kind of pancakes?
Like bitter, but
I think-
still tastes good.
I'm gonna say protein powder pancake.
I
Huh?
like adding walnuts and stuff to mine.
Normally, I
I'm
would
getting
say
swole
chocolate
through
chip,
pancakes.
but I recently had a cinnamon swirl pancake that was amazing from Baker Square.
Ooh.
It's so
Ooh.
good.
Actually, I
So-
haven't had pancakes in a while.
Can we do an icebreaker? Can we just go around and say your name and who you are and a little quick intro? Is that cool?
Sure.
I'm game.
Karen, you're up first.
Yes. Hello, my name is Karen Joanna. I live in San Diego. I am a 3D modeler. I don't know what else I'm supposed to say other than that. I'm originally coming from like animation industry stuff and trying to diversify portfolio, getting into games, doing all sorts of different things. So yeah. Oh, am I popcorning? Andrew Cook.
Okay,
Popcorn.
sure. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I'm Andrew. I live in South Carolina. I got I graduated from SCAD with a game design degree. The exact moment the game industry collapsed. I do game design and level design. And I've also led volunteer projects. So so that's kind of my shtick. I've been working on my portfolio